Ryan Clark says what a lot of Chicago Bears fans have been feeling over this recent stretch around the conversation based off Justin Fields and what's going on with his trade destination or not. We're going to talk a little bit about that, play that clip. We're also going to look at some of the best wide receivers out there on the market that the Chicago Bears can pivot to, yes, including Mike Williams. And we're also going to look at where the Bears can find a one-year rental at that edge position while they may draft one in this upcoming draft. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So I want to talk about Ryan Clark, right? Well, first kind of about Justin Fields, right? Everybody's wondering what's going on with Justin Fields. Why hasn't he been moved yet? Some people even saying that Ryan Poles has held on to it too long. And that just means that, listen, the way that everything is played out, that the Bears are not going to get it. And, so far, we played the clip yesterday of, ESPN 1000 host saying that the Bears may have to cut Justin Fields, which I don't really think that that's the way that it's going to happen. But I think when you look at it is that things are going the way that we kind of knew that they were going to do if you paid attention to the way that it was going to be. It's been a surprise to some, but to some that it's not. It's just reading the tea leaves on how Ryan Poles operates. And one of the people who kind of, talked about it, we always talk about how the national media doesn't really want to talk about the things with Justin Fields. It kind of has their narrative. Well, Ryan Clark yesterday on Get Up, he said this.
You don't want to put Caleb Williams in that situation, and that's why it just doesn't make sense to hang on.
Why do you look so
JF1.
confused, RC?
I don't know why everybody can't see the big elephant.
What's the elephant?
What if they ain't gonna draft Caleb Williams at all?
What does that mean?
Haven't we been talking about the evaluation process? The draft didn't happen. I don't know that Caleb Williams has signed a contract. Has anybody called Caleb Williams and say, hey, Caleb Williams, the Chicago Bears are drafting you number one overall. Are you ready to come to Chicago? Do you want us to take you to see the Bean? Nobody ever said that.
The Bean.
Nobody. He is not listening to Drake singing songs about being in Chicago because the chick left him. What if Justin Fields is going to be the only first-round quarterback in the room? What if Justin Fields is going to be the starter and they aren't going to draft the quarterback and they're going to trade away the number one pick? Why can't that happen? Why are we so shocked? Maybe Justin ain't been traded because they don't want to trade him.
Is that possible? That's
very possible.
And where I like a lot of this is that Ryan Clark just saying that, what if, right? Not saying necessarily, hey, the Bears are absolutely keeping Justin Fields, like some national media people like to do, make a hardline stance on they're absolutely drafting, they're absolutely trading. But I think that what Ryan Poles has done, he's created a scenario in which he's improved the team overall where it needs to be, right? And kind of let the market go where it needs to go. And maybe, and I'm just saying maybe with this, right, is that Ryan Poles took a look at everything and said, hey, what we can get back in reviewing things, what we can get back with that number one overall pick, maybe it's worth it to kick the can down the road, get all that talent, get that historic haul, as some say. Now, I want to be clear. Is there still a chance that Justin Fields is traded? Absolutely. Is there still a chance that Ryan Poles takes Caleb Williams? Absolutely. I'm not one that is going to come over here and tell you that it's absolutely going to go one way or another, because guess what? The only people that truly know that are Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, and I think Ryan Poles is still in the midst of his evaluation, and we'll end up seeing. Now, with that said, outside of the Ryan Clark, Adam Johns of The Athletic also said this yesterday. Coming out of the NFL scouting combine, we reported that the trade market wasn't robust for Justin Fields. I think everything has played out as expected. If we were setting up those QB dominoes, Cousins, Mayfield, Minshew, and potentially other free agent quarterbacks would be in front of him, and that proved the case. The Bears might not be actively shopping Fields. Their evaluation of Williams is ongoing, but no team appeared willing to aggressively pursue Fields either. At least that's how it's played out so far. Poles will have to be patient. I think he's okay with that. Now, that's two kind of different mindsets, right? Adam Johns taking the mindset and the approach that Ryan Poles expected this to happen, wanting those other dominoes to fall, maybe hoping that a team is going to be set left without a quarterback and is going to maybe make a move for Justin, maybe make a move for the number one overall pick. There are a lot of options. Yes, the Washington Commanders are still there, reportedly willing and wanting to take Caleb Williams and trade for the number one overall pick if the Chicago Bears are willing to do that deal. Now, I think another aspect of this that we all should be looking at as well is what if, just what if, I'm not saying 100% for certainty, but what if Ryan Poles does evaluate one of the other quarterbacks in this draft and he would rather go that way than draft Caleb Williams? And if that's the case, then Ryan Poles has played this even more masterfully than what I think even people realize. If Poles gets to the point where the draft comes up and they trade the number 1 overall pick and take a different quarterback by trading down and still getting assets, that's not outside the realm of possibility. What I use to say all this is this. While you can make an argument for either which way or not, you guys know I like to talk about things from every standpoint. My mindset is you keep Justin Fields, you improve things as you have improved them, you get Marvin Harrison Jr. after trading down and you keep it pushing. That's my mindset, right? But the mindset of Ryan Poles could very well be different. And for the people that have made this conversation one that's either Caleb or either Justin, I think that you're not taking into consideration that when has Ryan Poles ever looked at anything that black or white? That's the way that I want to present it on this topic, is that while we as fans look at things as black and white because we are, when you zoom out and look at the grand scope of things, when has Ryan Poles ever looked at anything that black and white? So I think that as we go forward in this process, and this may literally roll up into the draft. Now, that thought process on could Ryan Poles draft a QB and still hold on to Justin Fields? I'm not going to say that that's the ideal outcome, but I will say that I think we're all overlooking that there could be a chance of that happening as well. Overall, to say this, where we and how we as fans view and want that clear decision, Ryan Poles is looking at it from a team aspect. And there's still an absolute chance that this could go away, that while and I'm saying we're as a community, not every single one of you guys and not me, because I'm not arguing with you motherfuckers, but that while we're as fans arguing the Caleb and Justin aspect of this could still very well go a much different route than what I think any of us expected as we approach this. But we'll see what Ryan Poles has in store. We'll see where it ends up going and heading for the Chicago Bears overall. But let's get off that. So I want to take a look at it. So we all kind of expected the Chicago Bears to go after edge rusher, either in this draft or free agency, and they still may do both, right? We know that the Bears did make an offer to Danielle Hunter. He ended up getting $48 million guaranteed on a $49 million contract, which is banana. Shout out to Danielle Hunter for getting that. But there are still prospects out there that the Bears could take 1-year deals on, depending on how the market goes. And I talked a little bit about one of these guys, and that's Chase Young. I do think that Chase Young, when you look at it, the injury season that he played 12 total games in 2021 and 22 combined, only had 1.5 sacks, 33 combined tackles, and 3 tackles for a loss over that time as well. The injury questions around Chase Young, despite him playing 16 games last season, have not all gone away. And I think that's evident by how the market has also played this. Like, we haven't really heard very much at all about Chase Young out in free agency yet. Now, for that, he had what could be looked at as a bounce back season last year: 7.5 sacks, 25 combined tackles, 7 tackles for a loss. Chase Young came back last year and showed, hey, his health may be improving. Not saying that it's improved yet, but it could very well be improving to the point to where a team could take a risk on him. Now, of course, Chase Young, his agent, they're going to want a long-term deal if possible. But then when you look at it, Chase Young's age, still extremely young, right? Coming out of OSU. So if he were to take a 1-year deal, I do think that it could be one that could very well work out for him. So, bet on himself if that's what he's going to be willing to do. But I do think if the market can go that way, both Chase Young and Connor Williams, another one who's coming off an injury, right? And there's that concern around them. But I do look at both those players as players that the Chicago Bears can't go out and sign and get them for 1, maybe even 2-year deals and get them on a reasonable contract, and they could have a big impact for the Chicago Bears next season. But Chase Young is one of those edges I really do hope that Ryan Poles takes a look at. Now, outside of that as well, I want to look at Jadeveon Clowney as well. Now, I know, Jadeveon Clowney, 31 years old, but the thing is that if you do go after Jadeveon Clowney, who I do think could be willing to take a 1-year deal, that then it does not preclude you or stop you from drafting a edge in this draft. Now, if you don't, let's say you don't get an edge in this draft, you prioritize the wide receiver, the offensive line, other positions. If you do that, which is perfectly fine, and then Jadeveon Clowney offers you a 1-year veteran that could pair well with Montez Sweat on the opposite side of that defensive line, while still giving you a player that is coming off 9.5 sack season last year. 9.5 sacks that Jadeveon Clowney have, so he's still a player that's able to be productive. Now, 2022, he played 12 games and only had 2 sacks. 2021, he played 14 games and had 9 sacks. So there's still enough there where you can look at Clowney and say, if you bring him into the right system, and I think pairing with Montez Sweat on the opposite side of that D-line, there's more than enough reason to think he can still have a really decent season for you. So it depends on where the Bears decide to go with their edge position. Are they looking for somebody more long-term? Are they looking for maybe a one-year rental, right? While they draft maybe a prospect that got to develop, or if they go in the first round, then you don't have to worry about it. But just Jadeveon Clowney then could potentially be a depth piece for you. So I like both those guys heavily. And as much as I don't like to say this, don't look at the outside chance that Yannick Ngakoue on a much more cap-controlled situation may come back for the Chicago Bears as well. Again, I think that that's something that's a little bit more far-fetched. But as we know, Pose is going to review all options, and that is an option that's out there for the Chicago Bears. But you guys can let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, with that said, we're going to go ahead and talk about the wide receiver position. We know, and we talked about it on last night's nightly episode, which make sure you guys stay subscribed every day during the first week of free agency, at least. May go a little bit further than that. We will be having episodes lives at night to kind of interact with you guys, recap the day, where we think the Bears are going to go with the rest of free agency, things like that. But the wide receiver position is one that you still need a veteran. I think regardless of, even if one of those guys, those top 3 wide receivers, falls to you at number 9, which the chances of that are increasing every single day, there are still some wide receiver veteran options out there for the Chicago Bears that they should definitely take a look at. And one guy, of course, is going to be Mike Williams, right? I think Mike Williams, depending on what he's willing to take in free agency, considering that he was waived. Again, I'm not saying that you need to sign Mike Williams to a 5-year contract, but I'm saying that as a 29-year-old guy that, yes, is coming off an injury, has some injury concerns, only 3 games played last season, 13 games played the season before that. Prior to that, though, he's been relatively healthy over his career. But this is a guy who averages for his career 15.6 yards per reception. He can absolutely take the top off the defense, but it has to be a calculated risk by the Chicago Bears. You're not putting all your wide receiver hopes in the Mike Williams basket, but I do think that he is a player that can come over for you in that Chicago Bears, so he can do wonders for you, even if it does end up being a maybe 2-year deal, something like that. I think that can do wonders for the Bears. It just depends on what Mike Williams is looking for, what that contract would look like after he was waived by the Chargers. So that, and also system familiarity is a big thing there as well. And we know that he's familiar with the system that Shane Waldron runs. So that's a very big part, and all kind of checking off the boxes on why Mike Williams could make sense for the Chicago Bears, but it does come down to the money. Then you have Curtis Samuel, right? 27 years old, 5'11", 195 pounds, 613 yards receiving last year for 4 touchdowns. This is a guy as well. Last year, averaging almost 10 yards per reception, and for his career, 10.7 yards per his reception as well. This is a guy that I think even if you get one of those wide receivers at the top 3 of the draft, he can help you out tremendously. I'm not mad at Curtis Samuel. It does come down to the money with all these guys. It's going to matter on the money that they're going to be willing to take to come to the Chicago Bears. But I really like his potential there. I think what you can use him if you do get that one of those top 3 wide receivers at that point. You're probably using him a lot in the slot. And I think with his speed and size, he can do great wonders there. And then the next one is Tyler Boyd, 6'2", 203 pounds. This guy had 667 yards receiving last year for an average of 10 yards per reception. Only 2 touchdowns last year, but looking at that Bengals offense, you kind of understand that. This is a guy that before last season, he had 2 seasons in a row of 5 touchdown receptions, and 4 before the year before that. He gets touchdowns when you put him in the right situation. He averages 11 yards per reception for his career as well. And he's another guy that I think you can get on a deal that would make sense, whether you get a wide receiver in this draft or not. I think he makes a lot of sense to be either that 3 or that wide receiver 2, depending on what you do there. I like the idea of Boyd a lot. This is one of Steve O's picks to bring, one of his favorites to bring in here for that wide receiver room for the Chicago Bears. And I like the position of him as well. And then, of course, you got KJ Osborne. This is another guy who absolutely can help the Chicago Bears tremendously. You look at that wide receiver room outside of the center position. The wide receiver room is our thinnest position on the offensive side of the ball. And so 26 years old, 5'11", 203 pounds, 540 yards receiving last year, 11 yards per reception in that time. He had 3 touchdown receptions last year. And this is a guy, only 3 years so far in the NFL. And all 3 of those years, he's had 7, 5, and then 3 touchdowns. Now, is it concerning that the number of touchdowns has gone down every year? I mean, you can write that off as a concern if that's just something that you're looking at, right? But I think overall, when you look at with this guy, last year he had the second highest yards per reception of his NFL career. He also was 75 targets and got 48 receptions out of that. His reception per target ratio was really good in that case. And I think this guy could help the Bears tremendously. I really do think he can. And again, most of these guys that I'm pointing out here are guys that the Bears can go after and still get, regardless if you're drafting a wide receiver or not. Both can be done. So I think those are all big signs for the Bears and all big potential signings for the Chicago Bears if they want to go out there and kind of shore that up using those positions. And I, for one, hope that the Bears do take a serious look at some of these guys. And I wouldn't be surprised. We're at day 4 now of free agency. And the Bears made, 3 moves yesterday? Let's see how active they are today. But I think with the moves around the NFL, when you look at the signings that happen, is that you look at the Titans signing a wide receiver, the Falcons signing a wide receiver. So I think that we have a good chance of one of those top 3 wide receivers falling to the Chicago Bears. The Bears still, though, we need some depth at that wide receiver room regardless. And we got a lot of players now that are officially free agents. After yesterday's was the official first day of the free agency kicking off. Of course, we already know Cody Whitehair, a free agent, probably not going to look to bring him back at all. Yannick Ngakoue, I talked a little bit about earlier. I'm going to say I think there's like a 10% chance the Chicago Bears could look to bring him back. Lucas Patrick, another one that's an unrestricted free agent now. Dan Feeney, the mullet of the Midwest, he's gone as well. Didn't really do too much in his time here in Chicago. Robert Tonyan's another one who's out. Don't expect him to come back, especially now with us signing Everett. He wasn't what we kind of expected in that. The vet Mercedes Lewis is another one. Deontay Foreman, Rasheem Green, who I think a lot of us kind of after the preseason had a little bit high hopes for Rasheem Green. Didn't really live up to anything. And then Equinami St. Brown is one that I do think could come back depending on what we do. I'm not saying that it's a highly likely case, but I think when you look at the money and things like that, there's a chance that he could come back on a much cheaper deal for the Chicago Bears as well. So, the Bears got some players. Nathan Peterman's out there as well. That's gone. Trent Taylor is officially a free agent now as well. So the Bears have some things that they need to look at, man. But, we got some deals still coming down the pipeline. Free agency isn't even close to being done yet. And we'll see what the Bears do, man. I'm excited so far about this free agency. I like what Ryan Poles is doing, but we still do need quite a bit of moves here for the Chicago Bears as we look to finish the season. And let's see what Ryan Poles does. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, thanks to you guys. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bears. No, it's wrong. Chi-Town up, we're Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.